Ever since the submersible American Turtle set sail during the Revolutionary War, undersea warfare technology has been thriving. The last 2 centuries have seen these ships grow from small wooden minnows, tasked with destroying as a single ship, to gargantuan steel leviathans, able to carry a full thermonuclear arsenal. With the dawn of the Cold War, the submarine's mission has become one of deterrence and infiltration. Therefore, the design of modern submarines has evolved to include the latest sonar and sensor technology. Much like their floating counterparts, submarines also house a wide assortment of weapons. Because of this, today's submarines are now the size of World War II aircraft carriers. The Cold War was a period of geopolitical tension between United States and the USSR that lasted all of 45 years and only ended in 1991 when the latter broke up. The superpowers were locked in a crazed nuclear arms race. At a point, the United States seemed to be ahead with their nuclear arsenal, a stockpile that included some pretty impressive nuclear weapons platform like the massive Ohio-class submarines. Then the Russians responded with a weapons platform of their own in a bid to even the odds. They pulled out all the stops too and forced the world to take notice. The monstrosity in question was developed under Project 941, known in Russia as Akula, but to the rest of the world as the Typhoon-class submarine. These are the largest military submarines in the world. The project was signed off in the early 1970s, and by 1976, construction was underway on the first one. The deployment of the Typhoon-class submarines caused a lot of consternation within the NATO ranks, and having a fix on their locations of all times became a top priority, even after the Cold War ended. They are truly massive. As far as submarines go, the Typhoon class has no equal. These massive naval vessels stretch out to a length of 175 meters, 574 feet, and have a submerged displacement of 48,000 tons. By comparison, the Ohio subs, America's largest, displaces a mere 19,000 tons, slightly over a third of the Typhoon's mass. Only a few units were ever built. The Russian Navy only built 6 units of these aquatic monsters. Orders were received for a 7th unit, but that got cancelled before the project reached any significant stage. The submarines were initially designated by hull numbers, but eventually, 4 of them were assigned names in reference to the city or company that sponsored them. The Typhoons featured a unique hull design. The Typhoons were designed to be almost impossible to sink, able to shrug off numerous torpedo attacks, and still retain the ability to function to a large extent. It had a multi-hull design with 5 inner hulls built into a superstructure of 2 main parallel hulls that ran the length of the submarine. It wasn't cheap. Well, that's understandable, given their enormous size. The Russians have been closely guarded about the development costs, but in 2012, the government once scrapped plans to refurbish one, stating that it would cost the same as building 2 of the newer Borei-class missile submarines, which is a total cost of over $700 million per unit. They have been around for a while. These behemoths were not built recently. In fact, construction began on the first one in 1976, and it was commissioned 5 years later, in 1981. 5 more Typhoon submarines were commissioned by the Russian Navy from 1983 to 1989 and deployed to the high seas. It is hard to see how effective they would be in these modern times. The current status of the Russian giants. The Russians were smart enough to realize that their beloved Typhoons would not fare so well in battle as technology evolved and other countries developed more sophisticated naval vessels. Out of the 6 that were built, only the first one, the Dmitry Donskoy, is still in service today, and even then, only as a test platform for ballistic missiles and new submarine development. They have never been deployed in battle. Thankfully, the Typhoon-class submarines never had to be deployed in battle, but we can well imagine the incredible amount of devastation one of these could have caused. The primary reason behind their construction was to serve as a deterrent during the Cold War and also to match the nuclear capability of the United States at the time. The United States helped take them apart. As part of the Cooperative Threat Reduction Program to reduce the nuclear weapons threat posed by the former Soviet Union, the United States provided funding to the tune of $250 million and also worked with Russia in dismantling at least one of the Typhoon submarines in a project that commenced in 1999. You can bet the American military was able to sleep better at night after that. A fearsome weapons platform. The Typhoon sub was known in Russia as Project Akula. Akula means shark in Russian, and this shark had many teeth in its jaws. Each submarine carried up to 20 R-39 ballistic missiles. All these missiles could each carry 10 100-kiloton nuclear warheads that could be targeted independently at different targets. To put this in perspective, the nuclear weapon that decimated Hiroshima during the Second World War had an estimated 15 kiloton yield. The infamous TK-17 incident. In September 1991, Typhoon sub TK-17 was conducting a test launch of one of its 20 SSN-20 Sturgeon, the R-39, ballistic missile, when the missile prematurely exploded in its launch tube. The missile at the time carried inert warheads, but there was still the matter of the nuclear engines and live nuclear warheads on board. Thankfully, the quick-thinking actions of the captain were able to save the day and avert what could have been a catastrophic international incident. The Typhoon power plant. The submarine needed a lot of power to move its immense bulk around and launch its arsenal if needed. This was supplied by a pair of nuclear water reactors and two turbo gear assemblies comprising a steam turbine and gearbox. Each nuclear reactor provided power to drive two 50,000 horsepower steam turbines and four 3,200 kilowatts turbo generators, enough to give the sub a top speed of 27 knots, 50 kilometers per hour, submerged.
So the submarine can go right up to the pirate boats and hijack ships together. A new experience, and before returning to base in Holland, the submarine made a port visit to